All right, people, it's Friday morning. I hope you've had a great week. Hope you have a fantastic weekend ahead of you. Guys, we're going to be wrapping up today the statement, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. And I want to do it by expressing this thought to you. So far in this cry of lead us not into temptation, we recognize that it's a cry that comes from somebody who has fear of losing the joy of sins forgiven. It's the cry of someone who's afraid to lose the presence of God. Unless you come with me, God, I don't want to take one step further was what Moses said. But it's also the cry of real surety. It's a cry of real assurance, because there's a verse that I have to read to you today as we close this section. You'll find it in 1 Corinthians 10 verse 13, and it says this. It's talking about being tempted. And God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted above what you can bear, but when you are tempted, He will also provide a way out so that you can stand up under it. Let me read that again. God is faithful. He understands your humanity. He understands your proneness to be led into temptation. He understands your weakness, that your flesh is weak. He will, however, not allow you to be tempted beyond what you can bear. So God has measured the temptation and says, I know that this person is able to take that amount of temptation, and it will grow his or her character. It'll make them a better believer. It'll draw him or her closer to me. So God allows it, but says, but when you are tempted, He will always provide a way out for you. Now in John 18, Jesus does this beautifully for His disciples. In John 18, they're in the Garden of Gethsemane, and the people have come up, the scribes and the Pharisees have got the soldiers behind them, and they are leading the way to capture Jesus. Picture the moment. There you are on the side of the hill, one of the disciples, and Jesus is there, and these men gather up and they surround Jesus, and Judas kisses Jesus, and Jesus returns and says to the people, who are you looking for? And they say, we're looking for Jesus, as if they didn't know that it was Him. And Jesus is looking at His disciples, and He's just prayed a prayer that says, Lord, I will not lose one of these. And while He's saying to these people, who do you look for? They fell down, and Jesus is probably looking behind saying, guys, here's a moment to escape. Get out of here, run, get away from here right now. And then they stand up after this amazing incident, and Jesus asked them a second time, who do you look for? And He's giving His disciples an opportunity to escape. Now, I don't know how accurate that is from a theological point of view, but man, it paints a beautiful picture. It paints a beautiful picture of God saying, this temptation is too big for you. You've still got other things you have to do. You still have a life to live. You've still got stuff to do. I'm going to make a way for you to escape. And the disciples escaped. Whether they escaped acknowledging that Jesus had done this for them, or whether they just ran because they were so fearful, we don't know. But the principle is very true, that Jesus created a way of escape for them at the time of their greatest temptation. And then He says He does the same for us. I love that. Don't you love that? So when you are tempted, and every one of us is tempted from time to time, look for the way of escape. Generally, the way of escape will sound something like run, like Joseph. When Joseph was tempted by Potiphar's wife, and Joseph, it says this, and Joseph ran from her presence as this woman tried to seduce him, and he just turned tail and he ran. That's a good tactic when you come at a temptation. There's your way of escape. Don't fall into it. Don't give it a second look. Just run. And then we have Jonah looking for a way out. And we see how Jonah was tempted to run again, but he remembered the penalty or the punishment that he had been through when he ran the first time. And he succumbed now, and he said, okay, Lord, I will do your will. I will not run away from you, run to Him, but never away. There's always, people, a way of escape. I hope you find it. And I hope that as you look at what we've looked at this last week, that you will not turn God's trial and by failing the test, into a temptation. That was Monday's one. That you will recognize that we need to watch and pray. Watch, which means be aware of Satan's tactics. Be aware that you have an enemy who's out there to try and get you. Watch for his tricks. Cry out with fear to say, God, lead me not into temptation, because I never want to go back to the old life. I don't want to go back to Egypt. I don't want to be a butterfly and go back to the cocoon. I just want to follow you. It's a cry of dependence to say, Lord, I never want to go a step further without the assurance that you are with me. When you do that, you will know full well the wonder of the fact that God will always make a way of escape. Keep your eyes open for it and then take it. Hope you have a great day. We'll see you next week. Bye.